Okay, hello YouTube. Today I'm going to be talking about a general rule that I hear people teach kids all the time when up material exchange. And I'm going to be trying to explain why I think this is probably one of the worst early rules that we ever learn. So if you like content like this, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button, click on your notification icon. So the concept that I've always heard and the concept that people always teach is, well, if you win an extra pawn, like let's say e4, d5, and then let's say e6 takes, that at this point white just wants to exchange material because the more material that comes off fractionally, you're getting closer and closer to a win because your advantage is mathematically greater because, 10 over 9 is a bigger fraction than 11 over 10, and etc. So this, by the way, it just makes absolutely like zero sense because chess is more than just counting up the number of pieces that we have on the board. We're also fighting for space. We're fighting for good squares to put our pieces. We're fighting to have our pieces control and occupy more territory and more space, and we're fighting to make combinations happen, checks, captures, threats, things like that. So there's so much more going on than just a piece count. And this is part of the frustration. But even so, let's pretend for a minute that trading when up material is somehow a really good idea, that we should always do this, that we should always trade when it's up good material. Well, in order for it to be a rule, it has to be true, the majority of the time. So it has to be factual that the majority of the time that you trade when you're up material, that you are in fact getting closer and closer to a win and that your position is progressively getting better. Because if you have this as a rule when up material trade, and the majority of the time that you do it, your position gets worse, obviously this is a bad rule. You shouldn't even have it as a rule. So let's just take a look at this situation. Black gave up a pawn, white needs to try to catch up in development, so everybody just develops for a little while. The pieces aren't making contact yet, so trades aren't really possible. So now we have this move bishop g5, offering this exchange. So, here's an interesting question. Take a look at the computer assessment here. We have c5 as a possibility. We had h6 pop up as a possibility. So after h6, should we exchange? I mean, we're not losing any time. We played bishop g5, and that's, we got prompted with h6. So as far as principles of should or shouldn't we exchange, normally, we're not losing tempo. But notice the computer just immediately gives bishop e3. It's not giving anything else. So let's see, how bad is the assessment drop if we play bishop f6? We lost our entire advantage. The whole thing. We went from being up a pawn to basically having no advantage at all with one exchange. So if the rule is when up material exchange, shouldn't it be that every exchange for the most part, as a general rule, is going to, maybe this is just a weird random exception, because they're targeting, d4, and this is frustrating, right? We're going to end up losing our material back here in a couple moves. And that's a big problem. But this isn't the only exception. As a matter of fact, it's hard for me to even find where it's applicable, even a small majority of the time. Because, let's say, for example, we did something else. We played bishop d3, and we had, c6, castles, and then let's just say knight on b to d7, and then again bishop g5. Well, let's just give black a random move, because I know, weaker players play random moves. So let's have, a5. What's the best move here? Well, according to the engine, the best move is rook e1. So why not bishop f6? If the rule is when up material exchange, we should be exchanging, right? So bishop f6, again, our assessment drops pretty significantly. Well, maybe it's just trading this bishop for this knight. What if we start offering up other exchanges? What if we play a move like knight e5 and just try to wholesale exchange all these pieces? Well, again, we see a pretty big assessment drop. We're up close to 2 points here, just because we have more space and we have better attacking potential. We can play moves like h3, rook e1, queen e2, not offering any exchanges, really, just kind of slowly improving our position, because our big advantage here isn't that we're up a pawn, it's that we have more space and we have better attacking chances against the black king. So, in reality, in this situation, white wants more pieces on the board, not less. And with every piece that comes off the board, we're going to see this assessment drop significantly with every single piece that comes off the board as a rule in a position like this. So like after knight e5, you notice the assessment drops from 2 full pawns to 1.2, and then after h6, not only does it not recommend exchanging, it recommends keeping the material with bishop e3, again, because we have a space advantage. But if we start making any exchanges, almost all of our advantage starts disappearing in pretty quick order. Like if bishop f6, now the computer again wants to play f4 and maintain some semblance of space. If we trade this last piece, now it's advantage black. We're still up a pawn, and it just went from advantage black in a series of 2 exchanges. Now you went from a +2 winning advantage to a position that is slight edge black in a series of 2 exchanges. So this is terrible, just as a general rule. Like, this is, I'm just going to say it. It's a bad rule. Now, I know that beginners, we usually teach this rule to beginners, and we say, okay, well, in beginner games, it's a really good rule. So let's look at something that could be a beginner game. Like, let's play like e4, e5, knight f3. And I understand that sometimes beginners play bad or random moves. So like, let's have like a Ruy Lopez, and then let's play this bad random move. Let's play d5. As you can see, the assessment just went through the roof for white. So we're going to play knight takes e5, winning our free pawn. And then they're going to play a6. We're going to take because our bishop was attacked. So we're kind of forced into that exchange. bc6, and then we're just going to play d4. So now I'm going to have black play a beginner move. I'm going to have black defend this pawn. So, it makes total logical sense to defend this pawn to a lot of beginners. Of course, white's assessment at this point is huge. So how should white best realize his advantage? So if we follow the logic of when up material exchange, trading a knight for a bishop should always be a good idea. Because a knight is worth less objectively than a bishop. We should just make this exchange. But of course, you can see the computer, it's loving queen f3, in this position. Now, look at the assessment drop from +3.5. If I play knight takes d7, the assessment drops pretty much a full pawn. We're still, got a pretty huge advantage here, but our assessment dropped pretty significantly. Now, if I play queen f3, again, if we're following this rule, queen f6, black offers the exchange of queens. So shouldn't the computer be recommending to exchange queens? We're up material when up material exchange. The computer wants to keep the queen on the board because, again, our advantage isn't that we have an extra pawn. Our advantage is that we have more space and that this knight on e5 is an absolute monster. So we want to keep that knight on the board, and of course we also want to keep queens on the board. This queen is actually in black's way. Look at the assessment drop if we exchange. Queen takes queen, and a lot of our advantage went away. And then if maybe we make a few more exchanges, maybe the rest of our advantage will go away. Because the reason, again, that we're better in this position is because this knight was dominant. So here's another direction this could have gone. We could have played, instead of knight d7, let's say we just, instead of after bishop d7, let's say we castle. Or here's a computer recommendation. We could have knight c3, bishop b4, queen f3, and now the computer recommends that black exchange. But isn't black the one down material? Yeah, but there's an attack here. Right? So if it was an ironclad rule, black should never exchange in a position where he's down material. And certainly after, say, takes, black shouldn't offer an exchange of queens in a position where he's down material. But this is black's best survival chances in a position like this, because if he can get queens off the board, look how much his assessment improved. He's getting remarkably close, a lot closer to equal than he was a move ago. He was down nearly 3 pawns, and now he's not quite down even 2 pawns. So he's getting much, much closer. So instead of the theory, as the theory goes, that with each exchange you're getting closer and closer to a win because fractionally you're doing much better, in reality, with each exchange you're getting closer and closer to a draw. So when you are up material or down material, it should have absolutely no impact whatsoever on whether or not you should be exchanging material. You need to exchange material based off of whether you have a good piece and your opponent has a bad piece, how well placed your pieces are, whether or not you're attacking or whether or not you're defending. And those rules are so ironclad that it should make absolutely no difference if you're up a rook or down a rook. You need to make that decision based on who is attacking, who has more space, who has less space, and who has better placed pieces. And that is how you need to make that decision. And honestly, that's the way we should be teaching this rule to kids, so that they don't develop this terrible habit that's really hard to break later on. Or just not teach a rule about it at all is another way to go. So anyways, I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you learned something new about chess. Thank you very much for watching.